Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of True Dungeon Talk with Trent. My name is Trent of Trent Tokens. I'm a big fan of the game True Dungeon and an avid token collector. This wall here of tokens, that's what those is in those binders, might tell you that the word avid might be a little small for my infatuation and happiness with True Dungeon tokens. And in this episode of True Dungeon Talk with Trent, we're going to talk to the man, the myth, the legend, Jeff Martin, the creator of True Dungeon. And I'm announcing, if you haven't heard yet, that this is a new monthly series. So this is the first interview of a monthly series where we'll talk with Jeff about the current state of affairs with True Dungeon, maybe what we just finished, what's coming up. Maybe we'll see some behind-the-scene things and hear special announcements. So all kinds of fun things to talk about True Dungeon related. And thank you, everyone who is watching right now, watching live in chat. We've got Brad. Hello, Brad. Hello, Jeff. Snake Eyes. John at TD. I know who that is. And Jen Trent, that's my wife. Hi, honey. She's my wife. That's her right here in this little painting that Bo got us. She has to endure all the craziness that comes with being me. Yeah, so there it is. David and another David. Hello, everybody. And Brad again. Monthly updates sound good, says Brad. And I agree. So without further ado, let's bring in the man, the myth, the legend, the creator of True Dungeon, Jeff Martin. Hello, Jeff.
Hey.
The crowd goes wild.
Thank you.
All right.
Can we run that one more time, please? One more time. That'd be good. Let's
the myth, the legend, Jeff Martin.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. It is my pleasure to run that as many times as you want. So hello, Jeff. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me.
Oh, well, thanks for being here. You seem to have a very cool background going on. What's going on with your background there?
Well, I'm actually in the virtual dungeon right now in one of the rooms.
Ooh.
So for 6A, that's coming up this next weekend, Friday. So thought I'd show you a little bit of a peek. Not much of a spoiler, but yes, there will be what we call, these are called indie walls by the TD staff, because they're kind of like Indiana Jones is why we call them indie walls. So anyway, they're like temple walls. So yes.
That's cool. Will we be running away from any boulders in 6A?
I won't rule it out, that's for sure. We'll see.
Be careful what you touch, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So Jeff says that you are very loud compared to me. Let's see if I don't see
a problem with that, really. I don't know.
Let me bring Jeff down a hair. Okay. So Jeff 3210.
Testing. Apples and oranges. What
do we think, Jeff 3210, our audio technician? Let's see if he comes back. I did a little adjustment there. Let's see. Hello, Bill. Bill's back. Let's see what Jeff 3210 says when he comes back. I can.
Maybe he's just pulling your leg.
Are you pulling my leg, Jeff 3210? All right, so we'll see if anyone else thinks that Jeff's volume is a lot louder than mine. Could be adjusted more. All right, so adjust a little bit. I'd rather you. All right, so there is a good adjustment.
Testing. 4 years today.
Right, so I think that should be the adjustment. I got him down to about 40%. Jeff is still loud. So I think the chat will probably catch up to us in a second.
Cool.
All right. So speaking of virtual True Dungeon, the last time you and I did an interview, we talked about creating True Dungeon.
Yes.
And obviously that was for the conventions. We talked about the history of it. But virtual True Dungeon has now been a central focus, obviously, for True Adventures Limited.
Yes.
And so I thought we could talk about how you came up with virtual True Dungeon and some other things about virtual True Dungeon. So my first question is just that. How did you come up with the idea for virtual True Dungeon? And may I take full credit because I sent you that video of that dungeon group, that D&D group, where they did like this cool little walkthrough
Sure.
piece for their dungeon master's birthday. So can I take full credit for creating
Sure.
virtual
Whatever makes you happy, Trent. I think that's what we're all wanting to do. So just keep you happy.
So
Yeah,
you're-
honestly, I wish I could remember exactly. I don't. So I'm just gonna say sure. That sounds great. I mean, I can remember bits and pieces, but I yeah, I guess. I remember when around March 15th hit, and basically the government shut everything down, and we had to basically go into entrenchment mode. We were hoping to go to Gen Con in August, but I thought that for being a little bit of student of history, that I kind of knew it was coming, so I pretty much knew that it was going to be a long haul, and that it was going to be a while before we get back into in-person stuff. So I really didn't have a great idea at first. It was I would talk to people, and they'd all say, "Oh, you'll come up with something. You'll come up with something. No problem. Don't worry about it. You'll come up with something." And I was like, "No, I'm not. Sorry to disappoint you. It's not going to happen." Luckily, what happened was I owed some cool patrons, 40-something of them, some kind of patron adventure. So that's really where it all started, because we had to do something for them. I didn't want to, want to do something. So we started looking around. And in the end, I got some awesome ideas from people like you that I could steal and take credit for. And there's been virtual escape rooms well before this thing, COVID came along, because, people are wanting to expand their, they may have a really cool escape room and a lot of people want to play it, but unless you're local, you can't. So there's some virtual stuff out there. So basically it was kind of an amalgamation. Then I talked to a local friend, Daryl Jones, who I worked with a lot at Dwarven Forge to make some sets, and he'd been doing some online stuff. He had a weekly D&D campaign, and he kind of showed me how he ran it and how you can make like custom graphics and how to make it look really cool. I talked to my tech brother who did TD Dot events. He does all that for us, and we looked at some other custom stuff he could do. But anyway, for this Patreon, we decided let's just go with Zoom, and I had Daryl help me create like kind of a template for everything, and we just kind of threw together an adventure. We decided to use OBS because it was free and it was really hard to use, so that's really what I like to do, apparently. So yeah, I learned OBS and get all the elements together, and we had a great time running the patron event. So I got good feedback, and I honestly, within like a couple of days before the event, I thought, hey, this might be a possibility. We'll see what happens. If the people that play it like it, we'll try out some things and see what happens. And the feedback was really good. So we decided exactly 1 year ago today, as you pointed out earlier, the first True Dungeon V1A was, it's called V1 back then, I think, was run. And yeah, it's been a crazy year. I never thought I would be doing this kind of thing. It's definitely a change of pace, which I like. It's a new thing, new skill sets, new things to learn. Not much of a filmmaker, and that's something I've had to learn kind of from the get-go.
Cool, very cool. So speaking of doing different adventures, you're right. I did mention that today is July 31st, 2021, and exactly 1 year ago was the first one, VTD1, which later became 1A, which is kind of amazing. July 31st, 2020. It feels like time has flown by since then.
Sure.
And we have had a number of different virtual adventures since then. Speaking of that, let me kind of walk through the ones that we have had. So in the end of July, beginning of August, there was VT1, which became VT1A. And then in September, we had 1B. And then, so that was Nymph and, let me go back to that, sorry. That was Nymph and Nimblewit. So that was our first experience, which was very cool. And then VTD2, which was 2A and 2B, in October and November of 2020. Doing a little walk through history here. And then The Dead Will Mine was 3A and 3B, December 2020 and January 2021. And then after that was The Mistress of the Marsh, which is when you added a C for A, B, and C, February, March, April of 2021, this year. And then the final piece of the puzzle for VT1 through 5 was 5A, 5B, 5C, which was May, June, and July, which we recently finished that story arc. It was very awesome. And let's see, Bill asked, did you ever try Mark Matthews Simmons' Dreamscape attempts back in the early 90s? It was a live-action space game. It was either at Gen Con or Origins. So for the fellow people there...
I wish I would have. That would have been awesome. Sounds great. Never tried it. No, I didn't even know about it. Mm-hmm. So, sorry.
Yeah, so for those adventures, I, as one can imagine, did all of them and enjoyed them all very much. And from personal experience, I noticed that they, much like the physical conventions, each one just seemed to get better and better than the last. And I noticed that there were changes that happened, between each of them. So can you tell us maybe what kind of things you learned, good and bad, and how that affected the future adventures?
Well, yeah, like we always try to get feedback, and we have a great person that collects feedback from us, Andrew. He's been doing it since, he's awesome. And he gets us some great feedback. So we hear from the player what works for them, what doesn't. But a lot of it is also logistics. And like the first time we did it, we had everybody come here because we wanted everything, on site so that we could help out because it was all brand new. And that was a whole big crazy thing, especially with COVID going on. So we made it, every time we do one of these things, we make everybody get tested just before. Just to make sure everybody's good, and so that was kind of scary to get all those people into two areas and all that, but everybody stayed safe, and that was great. So logistically, it was a little crazy with all the people here. The big thing, and one I think we learned, was that we got to be careful how we set the puzzles up really well so that the golems can interact with them well, and that so the party has fun, and so it's not you're so much trying to fight the golem to get him to do what you want to do, but make it so it's a little easier for the golems to do it. We required in one room, the golem had to like lay on the floor and reach up into the view, and that was probably not a good idea, but that's what we went with. And then when we got into V2, that's when we started experimenting a little bit with different kinds of monsters, different kinds of sets, and how they looked on film. The one issue that I really wish we could improve, which right now it isn't possible, is I wish we could get our golem cameras to have a little higher resolution. Wish we could go to full HD. That would be great. But right now with the Zoom app that we're using, it doesn't allow that. So we found out stuff that looks great in person and would look great in a normal dungeon on an iPhone in the dark doesn't look as great. So we've had to play around with lighting and check things out really carefully beforehand with a iPhone to make sure that what we see looks good in person will also translate well to the player who might be, in another continent somewhere watching on Zoom. I think for 3, that was the first time we kind of had some pre-prepared monsters. We liked that idea because those could be recorded with a good camera and, with good lighting and better resolution. And then when they're broadcast, they look better. And we could also then add in certain effects and other things to make the monsters more interesting and the encounters more interesting. So we played around with that. That was the first time we thought, hey, we don't need to have a physical either person or prop or animatronic for every monster. In fact, sometimes it'd be good to have a pre-recorded thing. That way we get some really cool effects involved and that kind of thing. So that's when we really started exploring that. And for the Marsh, that was interesting in that we tried to do some things with NPCs up close. That we had a prisoner that you had to work with in one room, and we decided to see how well we could work with them, and the NPCs would interact with our Golem cam, and how well that could be. We had some fun monsters and that kind of thing. We're also dealing with COVID at the whole time, so about that time I came down with COVID, I guess, according to the health department. I had a positive PRC test, so I had no symptoms, so I got to hang out in my basement for 2 weeks. Free vacation, that was nice, but I got a little stir crazy. So again, that just reminded us, be careful, be careful. So we had to really, we were trying to minimize as many people as we could get here. So by that time, all the DMs were just staying home, doing it from their basement, nice and safe. We were trying to record a lot of the monster stuff again, or have it in an animation, just to keep the whole COVID risk down as much as possible.
Right, and if I'm not mistaken, no one else there had caught COVID at that time. You were the only one that was positive.
As far as we know, nobody's ever gotten it that's worked here as a volunteer or, a staff member. So I might have had a bad test, but from what I read and what I hear, the PRC tests are really accurate. So I am one of those cases where you have no symptoms. So yeah, be careful. You could have it. So another reason to wear a mask. So.
Right, and then in 5, any big changes that you added from what you had learned from the previous adventures?
Well, that one we decided let's do something crazy and have like a couple different ways to start the adventure, kind of, and make this really cool big storyscape where it starts from, just to kind of capture their imagination and give it more of a feel of a real RPG where, you can decide to infiltrate through the secret passage down the well, or, through the front door, or sneak over the castle wall. We've all played those games. So we were trying to do that. And we've learned that people really like that, and we're trying to introduce multiple paths and things that affect in one room might affect another room, depending on what you do. So
very cool. Yeah, and now next up we have actually next weekend we've got the Bogwood Beast. And next weekend is August 6th through 8th. You can go to td.events for tickets. What can you tell us about this next adventure?
Well, this is interesting. It's fun. I love this adventure because it's kind of a epilogue. You'll get to finally kind of start the when we started this, the main villain was the raised witch, some kind of wizard sorcerer maybe that combines foul magic and arcane science to create some monstrosities. And I wanted to have an interwoven type of story, so now you finally get to try to kind of go after her. I shouldn't have said that. Her.
Did you just say her?
Her.
It's
well,
her?
Maybe witch was a tip off, but
okay.
Anyway, this is an adventure to get you there, and then what we're trying to do is, this is a nice, if you want to play, some of the adventures later on, like at Gamehole Con or the ones at Gen Con next year, wherever we end up. This is a kind of a prelude to that. So you will. This perfectly sets up the 2 adventures at Gamehole Con that'll be in October. So you definitely want to play this one, so you'll know kind of what's going on there. It'll be neat.
Very cool. Now, you've mentioned volunteers for virtual. How does someone go about volunteering for your virtual? Do they? And for those that don't know where your virtual events are, maybe could you also explain that as well?
Sure. Well, actually, we host an event once a month, just about, and most of the people that volunteer never leave their basement or their house or their patio or whatever they're going to do it from. If you want to be a DM, you just stay home, and we give you all the tools and everything to do that. We do have some folks that come in here and act as camera people, or golems as we call them. Most of those are locals, so so that's that. But to volunteer, you just go to tdvols.com, tdvols.com, and there's a really nice website that Mike set up, and in there you'll get all the cool info, that all the swag you get and stipend for helping us out, and then you can submit an application and you'll get a lovely letter back from Lori shortly after that.
Yeah, I bring that up because the volunteers are just so amazing for True Dungeon.
Yeah, no kidding.
And without them, I don't think the experience would be the same. So I'm always so thankful to all the volunteers. So thank you all who do volunteer.
You. Yeah, thank them. Yeah, it's ever since day one. I managed, when we did our first one back in 2003, I just had to talk some local friends into helping me out at the last second. We had a couple folks come in. Charles, the original Blue Hand, he came in and helped us out, and another guy, Dustin, something from Iowa. Anyway, that was just crazy that we were just running around doing, we had no idea what we were doing. But the next year, because people had played and really enjoyed it, that's when, Dave Radke was there also the first year. That's when people who had played it said, hey, I want to be a part of this thing because it's really cool and I want to help it make it happen. And ever since then, we've had an amazing embarrassment of awesome volunteers that wanted to be a part of it, and really lucky. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is amazing. The True Dungeon community is amazing, for anyone who doesn't know that already. The volunteers are unbelievable. You can see, at least I believe, that you can see that they are bringing joy to all the other people who are going through and having fun. So it's almost like a giant D&D game where Jeff is the dungeon master, and all the NPCs that you run into throughout your adventures that last months and years are these volunteers. It's an amazing thing. So if you haven't volunteered yet, go to tdvols.com. And speaking of amazing people and the amazing community, in our last few minutes here, let's go to our chat here and see if we can find some questions for Jeff. If you have not typed in a question yet, please do that. And I'll see if I can grab as many of these as I can for Jeff. And let's see here where we are. Okay, crazy. Dragon, Steve. All right, so Stephen Watkins. Let's start with a bold one here. Stephen says, why the sudden change in plans for True Dungeon? I guess he meant not being live at Gen Con.
Well, that's a good question. And it's a very complicated one. It's nothing like, there's no great super drama or anything. It's just a lot of logistical things weren't going to work out. So I apologize that I prematurely announced we'd be there. This is all brand new year with all kinds of logistics that I didn't even know existed. So I shouldn't have announced it. We should have waited till we had all our T's crossed and I's dotted before we announced it. So it's just a matter of, the COVID thing is just a huge thing going into a game convention. And now that we see the Delta variant going, you can see why it was important to make sure everything was perfect. So we're going to be back next year. It's going to be awesome. I just wish I hadn't jumped the gun and got everybody's hopes up. That was a dumb thing to do.
If I recall, you fairly quickly after that announced that you weren't going to do it, but you are also, True Dungeon is one of, I don't want to say hundreds, but tons of people and companies who chose to not do it. And that's one of the amazing things about virtual True Dungeon. At least we get to scratch that itch that True Dungeon gives us. Yep. Let's see what we can...
At least we're doing at Gen Con Online, you can play our little mini quest. So during Gen Con weekend, you can actually play some virtual TD.
Right.
If you want.
You can go to the Gen Con website and get a free online badge, and then you can sign up for the mini quest, which is at the same time as Gen Con. All right, so let's see who we got next here. Bill says the virtuals are getting better all the time. I agree. Let's see. Dragon6483 says, having been there, so I guess he's talking about Carbondale. I think you all did a great job the first time allowing us to get spaced and safe. So thank you from Dragon6483. Adam asks, when do you think we might start discussing changes to character cards? 6th level characters, question mark. So I think he's got 2 questions in there.
Yeah, we were supposed to talk about this about a year ago. so yeah.
Is the answer?
Soon. Yeah. Well, so yeah, in order to keep costs down, we had to buy a bunch of character cards at once, because you know how printing works. You buy a lot, you get a lot cheaper. So we're still burning through the stock of 4th and 5th level character cards we have. But yeah, I definitely see I've gotten some great feedback from people. Like Master Ed is one person that's wanting to be very helpful in that regard, and he's got some great ideas.
He's
and
the best, yeah.
Just like we do with tokens and game mechanics and stuff, this will be something that we'll have to hash out on the forums, because we want to make sure everybody's got input. I always want to make people feel like they're part of the game, mostly because it makes me look smarter, make better decisions when people give us feedback. So yeah, those tokens look great, and I'm like, yeah, that's nothing like I designed, but I'm going to take credit for it. Thank you very much. Thank you. So same way it's going to be with the character classes. So we'll tackle that soon as the kind of the dust settles this fall.
Right. And what do you think about 6th level characters? Is that in the works? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely thought of it many years ago. I don't remember how many, when we came up with 5th level characters. I knew it was coming a couple of years ahead of time. So there were some other things going on in the background, but with artifacts and stuff. But we just got to be careful that it doesn't make it too complicated for the DMs. That's the hardest part about, like, we love to go to Gen Con. We love to put on, 4 shows if we can, 4 adventures. But then if we introduce a bunch of complication, it's going to be difficult for us to be able to find enough DMs to staff 4 adventures. So
right. For new people, right?
Yeah.
Understood. Okay, so cover Stealing Badger, shout out to all the golems, thanks, and hat tips to them. I agree. Snake Eyes asks, will on-set live NPCs be coming back in VTD, in Virtual to Dungeon? The Nymph and the Harpy were great to interact with.
Sure. Yep, there's one in V6.
You heard it here first, boys and girls.
Oh, there's some news. Spoiler. Yeah, there's one in V6. Again, we're just trying to, especially now with Delta variant coming up, it's better to try to keep the number of people down. But yeah, I think we learned a lesson in that we always want to have a live NPC somewhere in the dungeon. So
excellent.
That will happen.
Great. Well, thank you for that spoiler here. We'll take it. David also agreed that the Harpoons were one of his favorite combats. And Steven says, or asks, will the game hole runs have exclusive XP, or are these adventures planned to be available later?
We plan on making them available later, so they won't have exclusive XP, but who knows what's happening anymore. I'm not making any suggestions or guesses about what's happening next year. I don't see any reason why we're not going back to Gen Con, and if we do, we'll bring those 2 adventures with us for sure.
Okay.
So
great. All right, so David asked, we're going to do a couple more here. When do we get to go back and open that crazy door Dowlin had us mark on our map?
Oh, see, that is a crazy door that you were supposed to open. Yeah, later on. You will. It's in one of the modules, but it's an in-person module. So there's literally, so someday you will be back. That is actually a puzzle that we built like over a year ago, and it's just sitting in the warehouse, ready to go to some kind of adventure. It's not in Weird Magic or Valerian's Feast, but if we go to Gen Con, I'm pretty sure you'll see it.
Oh, awesome. That's great. Let's see. When is okay? So, all right. This might be cheating. Avery Martin, probably no relation.
This could be bad.
Says, when is the next Averin token?
All right, hang on. I got to do this because this makes her laugh. You ready? I got to put my hands together like this, and I have to tilt my head and give the answer. And she says I do this all the time. So, the next Avron token will happen whenever she designs it and gives it to me, because she didn't do one this year. So it's up to you, Avery.
Oh, okay. Well, whoever Avery Martin is, so there's your answer to that question.
Yeah.
Let's see. And Conversation Stealing Badger says, thanks for the info, Jeff. I appreciate your honesty and no hard feelings on his end.
Sure.
His or her end, I'm not sure. Their end. Let's see. Brad says, Brad, if I'm not mistaken, that is Aussie Brad. For those of us unable to make it to the States, that's definitely Aussie Brad. Thank you for the online events. And for those of us who are here on the States, or in the States, thank you. And David says, get vaccinated. Delta variant with vaccination is super mild in nearly all cases. All right. Brad says we all need the XP, need to make 10th level.
Yeah.
And final question of our session today from Adam. Is there a chance for PAX South in January?
I would say 1% chance that it will happen. Not good.
That's
1%.
not a good
But as a gamer, you never say never, especially now with all the craziness. But yeah, I don't think they've even actually announced it is officially happening yet. So,
wow.
But we haven't heard anything from them. So yeah, I think I don't have any super information on that, but yeah.
Okay. So,
although I did just remember a little announcement I was going to make, but I won't. We are close to having the 10th level benefit ready to go.
Wow.
It's been an odyssey of experimenting and other things. So hopefully, maybe by this time next month we do our next interview, they'll have been out there and you guys will see the photos.
Okay, so a little teaser for next month's interview.
Yep.
As Jeff was saying, it's a monthly event. Let me try to sneak in one more question from Snake Eyes. If you're not printing the modules, the modules for the adventures, can we get PDFs? Reading them is always a highlight, he says.
Sure. So we still owe people some modules. Since we didn't, what we told them was that they would get all, like we normally do. We take the adventures that we run at like Gen Con, we print them up all really nice, and we send them to everybody. Mm-hmm. But there was no Gen Con. So the plan now is to wait till V6 is over.
Okay.
Then bundle all V1 through V6 and bundle them up. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to print them. I think we can and send them out because we already told people that they'd get a printed version. We're going to have to see because it's 6 modules instead of 3, but I like to try to, stay true to what I promised. So we'll probably just send them out in one big book to save some printing costs. So that won't probably be done though until towards the end of the year. So until we get to the end of. So hopefully what we might do is, this would be good. We usually send out a little teaser thing in maybe September, October. Nah, that won't work. Forget I said that, but someday, hopefully, it guaranteed at least be a PDF, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to be able to print this thing up and send it to everybody. So.
Wow, that is amazing. That's really, really great info. So you've given us a lot of, I think, unknown info and filled in a few blanks for everyone, and I think that is one of the big goals of our monthly series. And speaking of that, we're going to keep these a little short so we can do them more often and kind of focus what we'll be talking about in each monthly series. So today we talked about Virtual Through Dungeon and a lot of cool little tidbits of info that Jeff shared. So thank you very much, Jeff, for your time.
Thanks.
And so let me do this right here. Everybody, give it up for Jeff Martin, and thank you very much for coming and speaking with us today.
That guy didn't clap right there.
That guy, get the clapping over there, that guy. So thank you very much.
I didn't get a harumph out of that guy.
Oh, we got to get a harumph. So tune in next month for our next monthly series. Again, thank you very much. And
Thank you.
Next week again is 6B. I'm sorry, 6A.
Yep.
And the reason I mentioned 6B is that's what we'll talk about in our next monthly series, which is Saturday, August 21st at 6 p.m. We'll talk about 6B. We'll talk about Gen Con Mini Quest and also Gamehole Con coming up. So tune in, and possibly we'll reveal what are, or at least something about the 10th level reward, or prize for
level swag, I guess.
Swag?
I don't know. 10th level swag.
Yeah,
that will be available for people that are 10th level. Yeah,
awesome.
They've been waiting patiently. So Candace has been 10th level, and she's not said a word. So I appreciate her keeping it nice and not yelling at me. Where the heck's my 10th level thing?
Yeah, there's a handful of 10th level, and that's unbelievable that people have been playing that long. So kudos to all of those people. Thank you again for joining us, Jeff, and I look forward to seeing everybody. Thank you, everyone who signed in and watched this live. I really appreciate, and as the YouTubers say, subscribe and make sure you click your notification option. So click the thing and do the thing so you'll be notified. And we will see you next month. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Thanks again, Jeff.
Take care.
Bye, all.
See ya.